Welcome everyone, this is your math tutor Naresh. In this tutorial we're going to deal with brackets, simply learn how to remove brackets, collect like terms, and simplify. In this tutorial we may see addition, subtraction, and multiplication, all three operations in one question. Previously we looked at addition, subtraction, multiplication, division separately on their own. So in this tutorial we will see more than one operation in the same question. Let's get started. Now if I have plus on the outside and if I have 2x plus 1 inside the bracket, so how do I remove brackets? Now there is an imaginary 1 here, so positive 1. So what I can do is multiply. So positive 2x is also positive. So positive times positive is positive. And then 1 times 2x is 2x. And now for the second term, positive times positive is positive. And then multiply 1 with the second term. So 1 times 1 is 1. Do I really need this plus sign there? No, I don't. So I can remove it. So the answer is 2x plus 1. So this is how we remove the brackets. And now this expression is in its simplest form. It can't be simplified further. So we're done. That's where we stop. Look at next example. I will keep the same bracket, 2x plus 1, but on the outside I'm going to have a factor of negative 1. So how do we remove brackets? How do we simplify? So there is that imaginary 1, factor of 1. So let's multiply. So negative times positive is negative. And this 1 here, 1 times 2x is 2x. Remember, when you multiply anything with 1, you get anything. So you get whatever you're multiplying 1 by, right? So we're multiplying 1 with 2x, so the answer is 2x. Now let's multiply negative 1 with the second term. So negative times positive is negative. 1 times 1 is 1. So that's the answer. We're done. Again, this is in its simplest form. There are no like terms. So that's where we stop. Now to recap, if I go back to the first example, so I had 2x plus 1 inside the bracket. And then when I removed, what came out was exactly the same that was inside the bracket. So 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1. So nothing really changed. And the reason is because in this case, we had a factor of positive 1, right? So when you multiply anything with 1, you get that anything, right? So nothing really changes, remove brackets, and the outcome is the same as what was inside the bracket. Now, for this one here, inside the bracket we had 2x plus 1, but once we removed, what came out was the terms with the opposite signs. So here we had positive 2x, out it comes from the bracket becomes negative 2x. This was a positive 1, out it comes from the brackets becomes negative 1. And we know that when we multiply a bracket with a factor of negative 1, you remove brackets, every term will come out with the opposite sign. Right? Okay, so now let's do another example. So what if I had, let's say, positive sign, and then I had negative 2x plus 3b minus 1. So how do I remove brackets? Now I'm going to take a shortcut because whatever is inside the bracket, we're multiplying each and every one of those terms with this factor, positive 1. So actually when you multiply things with 1, nothing changes. So what comes out is whatever is inside the bracket. So negative 2x plus 3b minus 1, and we're done. That's all there is to it. So now let's work with the same question, but instead we're going to have a negative sign on the outside. So once we remove brackets here, because we're multiplying by a factor of -1, the signs will change when we bring terms outside the brackets. So this is -2x, out it comes, becomes positive. This is positive 3b, out it comes, -3b. This is -1, out it comes and becomes positive 1. So that's the concept there, right? Okay, so now let's look at something like this. So if we have negative on the outside, 2a minus 5, and then we have plus -3 minus 4a. Okay, so now how do we simplify this? In this question, the operation is that of addition. So we're adding this bracket and that bracket. So that's the question. What is the sum of this bracket and that bracket? So the main operation here is addition. But before we can add, we have to remove brackets, simplify. Simplify before we can add. So when we remove brackets, we are actually going to have multiplication operation in here. So we have multiplication here, multiplication in this bracket, but then we're adding the results. Okay, so an example where we're doing multiplication and addition in the same question. Alright, so let's remove that. Let's remove these signs. Okay, so now this is a factor of -1. So -1 times 2a is -2a. -1 times -5 is going to be +5. So, or we can take the shortcut, right? So whatever comes out of the bracket is going to change sign because we're multiplying by a factor of -1. So +2a becomes -2a, -5 becomes +5. Now, we're adding, so we're going to keep this addition sign here, okay? And now let's remove this bracket. We have a factor of 1 that we're multiplying, right? So 1 times that bracket, what comes out is whatever is already inside the bracket. So -3a and -4a. -3 and then -4a. I've got two signs here, positive and then negative. I don't need two signs. So what I could have done was, okay, copy the first bracket, -2a plus 5. And once I got to this, positive times negative is negative. So I could have directly gone to -3 minus 4a. So I don't need these two steps. Actually, you know, I could put brackets, but then it remains as the original question, right? So I don't need the plus, right? So I can just cross that out and then copy -3 minus 4a. Okay, so now can we collect like terms? Are there any like terms? Yes, there are. We have an a term here and an a term there, and then we have two constants. Okay, so let's add them. -2a and -4a. -2, -4, the addition is -6. So we have -6a. And now, can we do the constants? 5 take away 3. 5 take away 3 is 2. So that's the answer, and that's where we're going to stop. -6a plus 2. So to recap, we were adding two brackets. So we removed two brackets by using our simple algebraic rules, basically multiplication rules, right? And then once we remove the brackets, then we looked for any like terms, and we found, and we collected, and we're done. Okay. So now I had two terms, but I could have written minus another bracket. Then I would have had addition, subtraction, and multiplication, all three in one question. Okay, so maybe let's do one example where we have all three operations in one, in one question. So let's say if I have 5 as my first term minus, let's say x minus 1, and then we have minus negative 3x. So how do we simplify this? Okay, we got three terms, 1, 2, 3. So we have subtraction here, but the first step is to remove brackets. Alright, so first term is 5, it just gets copied, there's nothing to do, right? It's already in its simplest form, no brackets, nothing to remove. Let's move to the next one. So we have a factor of negative 1 being applied to this bracket. So let's bring out the terms one at a time. The signs will change. Positive x inside the bracket, negative x outside the bracket. Negative 1 inside the bracket, positive 1 outside the bracket. We can double check. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Now, let's remove brackets from the third term. So negative times negative is positive. So positive 3x, right? So simply because this bracket is being multiplied by a factor of negative 1, when it comes out, the sign will change, becomes positive 3x. So now, are there any like terms? Yes, we have x terms, and then we have the constants. So let's collect the x terms first. You could have the constant collected first and then the x. It really makes no difference, but it's just that we like to write the variable terms first. So that's why I'm going to collect the variable terms first. So 3x, take away 1x is 2x. And now let's add the constants, the 5 and the 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. So 2x plus 6 is the answer. Alright, so 3x, take away 1x is 2x, 5 plus 1 is 6. Alright. So now let's, all the questions we have done up until now, we either had a positive 1 or a negative 1 factor outside the bracket. Now let's do an example where it's no longer 1. Okay. So a very simple example we can use is, let's say 2 times x plus 1. Right? So now it's no longer 1. So, but the concept doesn't change, so we multiply. Positive times positive is going to be positive. So 2 times x is going to give us 2x. So what this means is this factor is being multiplied with each and every term that's inside the bracket. So now let's multiply 2 with the second term inside the bracket. So 2 times 1 is 2, so plus 2, right? Positive times positive is positive, and we're done. Now let's do the same question with a negative 2 in front, so x plus 1. So let's multiply negative 2 with the first term inside the bracket. Negative times positive is negative. 2 times x is 2x. Now let's multiply negative 2 with the second term. Negative times positive is negative. 2 times 1 is 2. So that's the answer. Here we had 2x plus 2, and here they're both negative, right? So negative 2x and negative 2, because we have a factor of negative 2. Alright. Now, I'm going to erase the second example, and I'm going to keep the first example. So what I want to show you here is make the distinction. Compare this. What if I had 2 plus x plus 1? Now what do you think? Do you think that these two look similar, or are they completely different? They're completely different, because here we had a multiplication operation, right? And now here we have an addition operation. So otherwise it's the same. We got a 2 here, 2 here, then we got x plus 1 inside the bracket, x plus 1. The only difference is this is a multiplication operation, this is an addition. So when we remove brackets, right, we're going to get different answers because they are two different questions. So let's simplify this. So this, I will say 2 remains 2, and now when I remove these brackets, I'm multiplying by 1, so whatever is inside it comes out and it remains the same, x plus 1. And now can we collect like terms? There's only one x term, so that gets copied, and now there are two constant terms. I can add them. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So notice the answer here is x plus 3, whereas the answer here was 2x plus 2. So, you know, I just wanted to point that out, right? So here is your multiplication operation, and here is your addition operation. So you have to know when you're adding, when you're multiplying, when you're subtracting. Okay? All right. So now let's do a question like this. So positive 4a, we're multiplying with minus negative 3, negative z, and a plus 5. So remove brackets. So here we have positive 4a as the factor, and it's being multiplied with each and every term inside the bracket. So positive times negative is negative. 4 times 3 is 12, times a is 12a. So that's 12a. Multiply now 4a with the second term. So positive times negative is negative. 4a times z is 4az. So what this means is 4 times a times z. That's what this means. Now multiply 4a with the last term of the bracket. So positive times positive is positive. 4 times 5 is 20, times a is 20a. So that's the answer there. Are there any like terms? Yes, there are. So we can combine them. So that's an a term, that's an a term. We can combine those. This is not alike because the variable is different, right? It's a times z, so it's not the same as the other variables. Okay, so let's collect. 20a take away 12a, that is 8. 20 take away 12 is 8. So we have 8a, and then this term gets copied because it's not alike. So that's the answer to this question. All right. Let's do another example. So here we'll multiply by a negative number. Negative 3 times 2x minus 5 minus 7a. So here we're going to multiply negative 3 with the first term. So negative times positive is negative. 3 times 2 is 6, times x is 6x. Multiply with the second term. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 5 is 15. Multiply with the last term. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 7 is 21, times a is a. So now, are there any terms that are alike? This is the x term, that's the a term, and that's the constant term. So none of them are alike, so this is where we're done. And I'm going to wrap the tutorial here, and I hope you found the tutorial useful. If you did, please like or subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. There will be a part 2 video where we will do some practice questions. Once again, thank you for watching.